wait a minute. Like, you're going to really push all of that stuff, but you're going to take away cameras? Like, what the?
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. What's the purpose?
Some Karen probably bitched about it. Said, got her picture taking a dump in the woods. Ended up on Facebook.
That will happen.
Could have been your serial shitter.
that will happen.
Yeah.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, it's almost food plot season, Jared, and Deer Grow is one of those products that has really changed the way that we plant food plots and the success we've seen from them.
No doubt. I've been, trying to plant food plots my entire whitetail hunting career, which is a little shorter than yours. But the minute that I started, or that I realized that I could get Deer Grow back into some of these remote plots where I couldn't get lime or fertilizer, especially in the 50-pound bag, format. Mm-hmm. So everything was changed. I could get into these spots moving forward with a backpack sprayer, and that's since escalated to these 40 or 60 gallon sprayers, and we're doing upwards of 5 to 10 acre food plots just with Deer Grow and having phenomenal success.
Yeah, and I mean, with the price of fertilizer, lime, diesel, everything this year, I mean, what better way to get in there and grow a successful food plot at about a third of the cost? Check out Deer Grow at deergrow.com. And we're back.
Hey.
HUNTR Podcast, episode 119. Welcome back, Nick.
Thank you.
Vacation, vehicle issues. Yeah. I'm not sure where we left off. It feels like you've aged.
I know.
You've aged since we've seen you last.
Nick, where do you work? Are they hiring? Seems like a pretty sweet gig.
It is a pretty sweet gig. Dude, I have a funny story for you guys quick. Jeremy knows a little bit about it, but
a little bit.
So the whole situation with my car, right? Like, I would be getting down to low fuel, and then all of a sudden I would be accelerating, and then my car
all of a sudden you'd be accelerating?
No, so I'd just be going on a road, right?
Yeah.
I'd just be
and then you would accelerate.
Yeah, and then everything would just stop. All the lights would come on in my dash, right?
Yeah.
I'd take it to the shop, pay some money to get it fixed.
And it would just die and wouldn't start.
Yeah.
So your alternator?
No.
Your fuel
just
pump.
wait, it's good.
Quit ruining the story.
Okay.
It gets good. It's funny.
It gets really good.
So
I'm waiting.
I'm on the way here
Punchline's coming.
to pick up footage, and it happens again. So I call the
after it was in the garage.
After.
Yeah.
What did they do when it was in the garage?
It was a oxygen sensor.
The sensor.
Yeah.
The sensor repair.
Yeah,
Okay.
so that happened. I call the garage. They come to pick me up on a tow truck, and the guy goes, "I don't think there's any gas in your car." So this whole time I've just been running out of gas, and my gas gauge is messed up.
Your gas gauge is messed
Yeah.
up. Okay.
Yeah, the whole time I've just been running out of gas.
Wow. Yeah, how would you know?
He's like, I don't know. I haven't put gas in it for 2 months.
You're like, it seems like I've had a half tank here for a long time now.
Yeah, it would say I had 50 miles to E, but I would run out. So
no mile.
Wow.
yeah, he towed me to a Sheetz. I put gas in it, drove it, and
How did you get it out of the garage the first time?
how did I
You
get
didn't
out
drive it off the lot.
Yeah, but he
You would've
only
been out of gas.
Yeah, but you only
Yeah.
went
Yeah, I put gas
like
in
a couple miles,
Yeah.
right?
So
Yeah.
you drove it, but it ran out of gas. How
It
did it
did.
even start?
So it started back up, and then I put gas in it.
So
It
it
just-
probably had a little bit of fumes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'm surprised it started being completely out of gas.
Me too.
Is what I'm saying.
Me too. That's why I was so confused by the whole thing. But the tow guy comes and he goes, "I think you're out of gas, buddy."
You're like,
Hey,
listen,
hey.
I may not be an automotive
Yeah.
expert here,
Hey,
but
buddy.
I know if my truck or my vehicle has gas.
Does
or
this
not.
car run on gasoline, buddy?
Yeah. So this whole time I've just been
Hey,
running out
guy.
of gas.
Wow. That's funny.
Yeah.
He
Sound
just pees in the gas
sound
tank. He's like, seems like you're fixed now.
Sounds like my wife. You guys have similar.
Except her gas gauge isn't broken. It just runs
Right.
out.
Hers is fully intact, as far as I know. She'd like to blame it on the gauge, but well, hey, at least you figured it out.
Yeah.
How much did that O2 sensor cost you?
$500.
Oh,
Yeah.
$500 for somebody to tell you that you're
Yeah, that I'm out of gas.
out of gas.
yeah. It's breathing well now.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well, glad we got that resolved.
Yeah. Me too. Me too.
At least at least it's a
So
a
did you-
fixable issue.
Did you
Yeah.
replace the fuel gauge yet?
Not yet. Not yet.
And I'm out of gas.
I just keep it at a half tank now.
There you go. That's a good
Yeah.
bet.
Well, track your mileage. That's what I have to do with my motorcycle. It's like there is no fuel gauge. It's just I know I get 100 miles on a tank,
Okay.
Oh, wow.
and I've got a reserve. I
Mm.
have run out on it, and I had to
Yeah.
use the reserve to get to a station.
Interesting.
How much buffer do you think they build in
I don't know. I've pushed mine.
I've pushed mine to the limit.
Well,
recently,
and this will tie into our guest really well. So, 2 years ago now, where it was you and I and the two Coltons going to North Dakota.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'd been driving for quite a bit. So I decided to take a nap and let Jared drive. And I wake up and
we're doing the math.
Jared's white knuckling next to me. I'm like, what is this problem? I look at the thing and it's like 2 miles to empty on there. And we're in the middle of fucking nowhere. Like there's nothing around us. And he's like, I know that there's...
We had a camper on too, right?
Yeah.
Truck
He's like, I know there's one up here. I know it's up here. I
was doing the math of like how many miles we had versus like what it was telling me. And I was like, if I let off the gas so much and get X amount better gas mileage.
We were playing the game.
We coasted on like 0.001.
That'd be stressful.
Because we didn't know how much buffer was built in.
Yeah. We made it.
Yeah, if they're smart,
we pushed it to the brink.
There's got to be a healthy amount. They got to assume that people are just dumb.
On like a 35-gallon tank, that thing took like 36 gallons.
Well, and I was losing I was losing mileage by the minute because
this doesn't make any sense
because of my load. You know how heavy the camper was. You know
how heavy the load is. Yeah,
we get it. Yeah, we get it.
But
speaking of North Dakota,
yeah, man,
that's where our guest is from today.
Yep.
Not too far from Canada, eh?
Yep. He's up there.
So we've got Lucas Cayko.
Yeah. Who? So from an intro standpoint, we'll definitely mess up, but I know at least we'll know Lucas from White Knuckle back in the day. Who, if you can recall, what was a video series. Lucas can get more into it. Todd Pregnants was a big part of that. Who passed away. I'm not sure how many years ago now.
2 years.
Was that it was a 4-wheeler accident? Is that what it was?
Yep.
Iowa guy. Just a freak for
big
sheds.
deer.
You know, you've probably seen some videos of Todd geeking over some giant sheds that he found on his farm and stuff. But that's, I think, was at least my initial exposure to Luke. And then more recently found out that our buddy Nick
Nick Scalma
has hunted with Luke, and so we just made the connection, and Luke seems like an awesome dude, so we're like, well, we need to connect and get him on the podcast, and here we are.
We got you, Lucas.
I'm here, man.
All right, brother.
What's up, dude?
Perfect.
Yeah, how's it going?
Well,
going
good now that Nick's got gas in his vehicle and not breaking down.
Great.
Yeah. Dude, we don't get to catch up enough here, Luke. You know, we do these podcasts once, twice a week, and so usually the first like 10, 15 minutes we got to all catch up with each other. And
for sure.
So anyways, but you're welcome to join in on that. So.
All right. Yeah, cool. Yeah. Good to be here, guys.
Well, man, I guess give us a little breakdown and everybody listening. So obviously we kind of talk pre-podcast. You're in the northwest corner of North Dakota. Would you say that you're a whitetail guy over a muley guy? Is it a split difference? How are you feeling up there?
Yeah, whitetail 100% most likely.
Wow.
But I have shot mule deer.
Yeah.
And it's getting more intriguing just as I get older here to go and start chasing some muleys. I need to get a monster muley on the wall with the archery,
Very cool.
I've shot them with bow, but I got to get a big one.
Yeah. Well, if they're more of just a problem for you, if you need somebody to take care of your muley problem.
Yeah, man. You guys got to get
that
to work.
That seems to be the issue.
So you own some ground up there? Are you living on a family deal or?
Yeah, my wife and I, we got 27 acres, but it's just a big alfalfa field right now. So nothing to hunt on it, but we're right on the river bottom. So it's a phenomenal location.
Okay.
But I don't hunt on my own property. It's all probably 95% public.
Public.
Right.
Okay.
So, yeah.
And that what's the program up there that we hunted a lot on?
Oh, it's dots.
I
forget. What's the walk-on program?
Like, like plots.
Plots.
And,
Yeah. That's what we hunted a lot.
Yep. Yeah, they'll be like that. Look, I think that one's like all red dotted and stuff all over the map. I think, right?
Yeah.
On Onyx.
Yeah. That makes sense. Well, Lucas, I guess give everybody a little bit of intro in terms of, kind of as Jared said, our first kind of probably encounter with you in the space from a content side would have been on the White Knuckle side. And obviously working with Todd and those guys. And, and I, transparently, I kind of recognize the white knuckle side from the Iowa standpoint because of Todd and deer like Walter Payton and things like that. But, I guess maybe break down some of your involvement there and go from there.
I guess it really started when to tie it all in, like, it's kind of a funny story. We all got these buddies that will book trips and then bail the last second. I'm sure,
yes,
I'm sure everybody out there listens. We got like, oh yeah, I know who it is.
Yeah, Jared's saying me. Yeah, me. Yeah, that's me.
Yeah. So
you're talking to one of them right now.
But yeah, my buddy's gotten better over the years about it. But anyways, he begged me and begged me and begged me. He was like he watched these hunting videos nonstop, and you see, all like back in the day, early 2000s or whatever, he'd be Illinois, Peoria, Illinois, all those like highly managed properties and guided hunts and stuff. And he just wanted to go on one so bad. And he already worked in the oil field, and he's living with me and my girlfriend at the time when we were going to college. And he just begged and begged and begged for a couple of years. And finally, he's just like, dude, would you just go? He's like, I just got this bonus at work. I'll pay for the tags. I just want somebody to go with. I was like,
see, Jared doesn't do that for me. Yeah.
I was like, all right. He wanted to go bad. He wanted to go bad, So I was like, whatever, dude. I was like, guided hunt stuff is not for me, though. So like a week out, he cancels. And I'm stuck with this tag.
No.
And I'm like, I don't feel like driving to Illinois by myself. I'm just like, I don't feel like it. I didn't want to go to this thing anyways, And so I call the guy and I'm like, I'm just not going to come, dude. I'm not going to come. And he's wondering, why. And I'm like, I'm just not driving down there, man. I was like, it's too far. I'm not going down there. I said, I didn't really want to come on this anyways. I'm not mean, but I just didn't want to. And he's like, well, what if he's like, what if I let somebody come with you and they can just hunt, just hunt with you? This guy just really wanted somebody to show up, I think, And so I was like, I'll ask my dad. So it'll make it a cool trip for me and my dad. We've never done it, something like that before. So I was like, all right, I'd be down if that's the case. So my dad said he'd come with, so we talked to him. He'd come hunt for free, whatever, essentially using the other guy's tag, right?
Yep.
And so we come down, head down to Illinois, and actually I killed the first morning. Just, it was kind of stupid, dumb luck. I called a buck right off of he just swam this little lake, and he started coming up the ridge with some does, and I just ripped at him. He kind of felt just kind of ridiculous because I see him run by with a doe. I rip at him, just kind of like, I'm in Illinois. I'm going to rip at him. I have nothing below me. There's like no brush. It's just in this bare open woods. Whatever. Let's just see if she goes. Rip at him, spun him around, and he walked right to the base of my tree, and I shot him. It's a nice 130-inch 4x4.
Mm-hmm.
And so that whole thing goes through. But how to tie this in how the white knuckle was, the guy that had the place down there, his son was with White Knuckle at the time. It would be Quinn and it was Quinn Ryer and Derek Graham. So Derek Graham was the one that his dad we were hunting with their place. And so I brought a bunch of my self-filmed footage and with me and showed him a bunch of it, and he was kind of like, whoa, like, this is really good. And so he had his son look at it, and they started making calls, and over the next 2 weeks, and Todd got a hold of that footage, and I get a call just one day, and at that point I had already started watching their stuff as he brought it up the first time, and so I got familiar with these guys, and I was like, ooh, these are my dudes. These are the type of guys that this is what I do. This is how wacky I am about deer, and so he calls and offers a position on the team, and I was right there. Like, it was funny as being like, whatever, 20 years old, 19, 20 years old, right there. I was like, oh, I made it. I'm in. Not knowing anything like I do now, right? Like, that's not what that meant at all.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I'm doing my dream job already. Barely got out of high school. And so we went from there, started filming with those guys, and met a lot of good dudes. And Todd Pregnants became a real close friend of mine, and rest in peace to him, and miss the guy every day. But yeah, it was just, I think the best part about doing something like that was just meeting everybody, and getting close to Todd and sharing everything that we did, everything that was happening all year round, and Kyle the editor, he was always awesome. We'd have phone calls and stuff about the footage, and and getting to know all those guys. And so I got out of it just because over the years I started making more money at work, and I didn't really need the sponsorship stuff anymore. It was like, I don't know. I kind of got tired of the industry thing of it.
Yeah.
Kind of just like, kind of feeling a little bit not good about it. So I was like, I'm just going to step away and just, I still film, I still self-film all my stuff. I mean, just because I like to do it, it's the challenge of it, but I haven't shared anything in years.
Is White Knuckle still around?
I don't think they're doing anything. They did some podcasts and stuff for a while, but they haven't really released any videos in a long time.
And it started as primarily like a YouTube channel, right?
It was never like I can't remember if it actually hit. We did like some short stuff on YouTube, but it was more DVDs. It was just coming out on DVDs, and then they started the it was like Whitetails Incorporated on YouTube.
Okay.
And then they do like rough cut stuff, like raw footage, like more in depth of each person's season.
Is Johnny Utah a part of that deal?
Not anymore. No.
He was at one point though.
Yeah, he did. Yep. He was right towards the end of it. Yep.
And Wicked Tree Gear is that was also that was one of Todd's companies, right? That was a premise of the deal. Okay. Yeah,
and then I think he and John Mulligan partnered up on that.
Yeah.
And then what's his name? David, down in Texas, Bucks of Tecumate.
David Morris.
Yeah. And then I think that company bought Wicked. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It's all coming back to me now. Yeah, I remember watching, some of the White Knuckle stuff on that was the same time frame when I was watching like Bow Hunt or Die.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like on YouTube and stuff. Was the guy who's that older gentleman that's on I see his hunts now on THP for the most part.
Ted Miller
just kills them out of the same tree on a horizontal rub every year.
That guy is freaking awesome, dude.
Yeah. So he was a part of the White Knuckle stuff as well.
Yeah. So is Justin Czar and what was the other guy's name with bow hunting?
Todd.
Yeah. Todd Graff, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I think they were on White Knuckle there for a while.
Wow, man. So that's crazy. I didn't realize that kind of everybody
was that before Bow Hunter Die or kind of at the same time.
I think it was like right in that same time frame. I think they started it right during that. Yeah. And then they finally kind of got their stuff growing and then stepped away and that became. I got to meet a lot of cool people and all that. It was a cool group of people, and Todd has a lot of stories from like with Andre DeQuisto.
Yeah.
And so there was a lot of cool stuff that went back with that. Like Todd helped engineer and design that. Like one of the first Lone Wolf models. Or something like that.
We talked to Andre not that long ago, and he mentioned Todd specifically by name as somebody that was like the most ate up with whitetail deer hunting he'd ever met.
Yeah, he was, man. That's why he and I just clicked, because I mean that's the way this brain works up here.
Dude, I can remember a time, I think it was at the old office, like Jeremy and I were just like losing our minds over that. There was a video of Todd finding his giant shed, and we're like, this dude is absolutely geeking over this thing. Like it was the funniest thing we've ever seen,
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah.
Well, you still see it, man. You still see, like, I see Todd's face on social all the time, where it's like, some meme or something, and it's him finding Walter Payton or whatever.
Oh,
man. Walter Payton.
Yeah.
He picks that sucker up and he's making that face and he's screaming. Yeah. Oh my God.
Well, and what's crazy, man, is like, I got to meet Todd probably, I don't know, a handful of times throughout the industry and had great conversations. But, there's a lot of people that kind of looked at his style of it and just thought, he was like, whether he was acting or he's over the top, but it was like, no, like that's literally how that dude feels like when he's in that atmosphere.
Well, he's just a super eccentric dude, and Lucas can tell is better. And I never met him, but that was just my perception. This dude's like over the top reactions to, and it was entertaining for sure.
Yeah. Hanging around his house, man. He acted the same way with anything, like, I mean, when he called me, he was screaming at me on the phone as I answered it. He was screaming, Psycho, what the hell am I looking at here? Holy fuck, now look at this. He's like, he was watching, he was partway through my footage and just screaming into the phone, just going nuts. Yeah. And I'm just like, I didn't even know what was going on right away. I was like, who the hell is this? And I recognized who it was. And he was, oh man, it was just from that moment on, we were just like, two best buddies. It was like, finally somebody on this level, somebody
That's
else.
Cool, man.
insane.
Well, I think what's really cool about it is if you look at kind of the time frame when that white knuckle stuff was going on. I mean, it was like it was a pivotal turning point in the industry of kind of what the traditional content was, and then stuff like you guys were doing. And at that same time, you had other, let's call it digital or web stuff coming out with like a Bill Winke or Grant Woods or whoever else, but. From that like hunting DVD, really trying to capture kind of the enthusiasm around it, there really wasn't anything else like it, right? I mean, it was a very new kind of, stretch because everybody was used to, no offense to them, but call it the TV hunting side, which was like, right. Outfitters and same thing over and over and bounce here, bounce there, success. And so, which was cool to watch, but like wasn't really relatable to most of us.
Yeah. Well, it was just in, cut to in the tree stand, explain the setup, deer comes out in the food plot, smack him, and I watched the shit out of it, growing up, like, you know, and watch much of that stuff anymore at all, but just for whatever reason, but it was just something that was, when that came along, when I first saw those DVDs, it was finally something that like us, our regular dudes that are out, every waking moment they have throughout the whole year. That's what it showed, right? It showed your shed hunting, your spring scouting, all that stuff, your summer velvet, which actually is, some of the most fun, for us, because we get to see what the hell, what are we going after this year? What's out there. So yeah, it was, I agree. I would agree with you. It was kind of some of the first stuff that came along that had it, from one end of the season to the end to, I guess, never ending season. That was one of the DVDs actually. So it's like, how it is. It just doesn't end.
Well, and that's what was, I think, so interesting about it is because, traditionally we watched whatever, starting in July through December, January, hunting shows that captured hunting season. Yet most of us did the things year round or on the outside of the season that we never saw anybody documenting. Like nobody showed those or talked about it until kind of that split period right there where, you started to document and show those things. And frankly, it was a risk, right? Because it was so different. Like we didn't know how people were going to necessarily react to that.
Right.
They really going to care that we're walking around finding sheds. Like, I mean, think about that. 20 years ago, would you ever thought like people would be tuning in to watch 15 minutes of somebody walking around trying to find a shed? I mean, it's crazy to think that, but in today's society at least, but back then it was non-existent.
Well, the platform for it didn't really exist, like a 22-minute show format, like really wasn't conducive to like, it's highlights, in that condensed of a format. Like the season really does require, there's so many different aspects of it that could take so much time. You need something like a YouTube or like a, whatever it is, a social feed throughout the year to really, if you're trying to document all that stuff accurately. But
well, and I don't know, is it going to go away? Because I mean, to people's attention span is going down by the day.
Is what going to go away?
Everybody wants the shorts. Everybody wants shorts these days,
Shorts, and TikTok. Yeah.
Is what going to go away though?
Is that long form film, like how much more are they really going to be, people are going to be into that, I'd like to say that I'm going to stay into it because I like watching the long form stuff, but I grew up around it too, And so now you get this new generations. It's just like swipe,
hard short, to say.
Short.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It might.
I think there's an opportunity, like from an entertainment standpoint, there's a few guys that do, really good production work. It's a production as much as it is a hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And I can sit down and watch that for, 45, I could watch a full deal on that. Heartland Bowhunter comes to mind. But there's others that like, can barely put together a 22-minute format, that have, shows on the Outdoor Channel and stuff. And I'm like, that is going away. Right. And debatably, it's understandable, I guess. We have just less tolerance for, okay, I'm not going to watch, 3 commercials before I get to a kill shot. Like I go to YouTube and I'll fast forward 3/4 of the way through the video. Here's where the thing spikes and that's that. I don't know, dude, we talk about it all the time, and not that we necessarily want to spiral down it on this podcast here, but the state of like content or video consumption in the hunting industry is like, it just isn't, You know, what people want is that short, you know, instant dopamine release. I want to watch and get something in 30 seconds. But not only is the hunting, you know, not only is hunting not conducive to that, that's not what hunting is. Those platforms also don't want us on there. You know, they don't want that 30 seconds that we actually want to see. And so it's like, you know, we're kind of boxed out in every direction on that. You know, frankly, Jeremy and I have kind of a, you know, as do some other guys, you know, a loophole here with this podcast in that, number one, we don't have to trouble ourselves, you know, to bring, you know, turn our hunts into a whole production. It's not something we want to do anyways. And as far as putting stuff out there for people to see, it's just this. It's us here sitting at a table having a conversation. There's no real threat at this point of
to an animal's life,
you know, and it is long form, you know, so you have to get this on, you know, either YouTube or, you know, fortunately Spotify, Apple Podcasts, stuff like that. But
yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see because I mean, you know, I think some people have done a really good job even now going from, let's say 15 minutes to 10 to 7, right? In a 7-minute YouTube, which frankly, you know, is about long form in today's society. You know, they're getting a lot accomplished. They're getting high watch through rates and stuff, you know, and that's even, you know, just from daily life. Like I even know with myself, like it's hard for me to sit down and watch something that's 30 minutes straight. Like I get distracted, kids are yelling at me, whatever. Like it's just not easy to do. And so, you know, I think that as people are able to be, you know, effective in their storytelling, but also efficient in the time manner that they're delivering it, that's probably what you're going to see.
You know who else is about to, I saw something from him yesterday, who else I think it does a really nice job that I could sit down and watch for an hour straight is Donnie Vincent does nice stuff.
Yeah, Donnie does great stuff.
We really need to try to get Donnie on here at some point.
Well, it's good storytelling. That the stuff that gets you pulled in, I think is where it was, you know, and I think when you throw it back to like when you guys were starting and, you know, even with what Todd and Justin do on Bow Hunt or Die, or even what Winky was doing, it was so new that it was like a 25-minute of this, like I'll watch this, or an hour DVD, or hell, like we still watch whatever it is, 4 hours of Whitetail Adrenaline. Like I'll still watch those guys and whatever they do.
Midwest Whitetail, when I stumbled across them in, I don't know, 15, I watched every single season, like every single episode, every single season. I caught up in like, it took me 2-3 weeks, but that's all I did.
Yeah.
In college, I just like didn't go to classes. I just watched Midwest Whitetail for 3 weeks straight.
It's good stuff.
It's good. It was the best. I watched all of it. So I watched a lot of the.
That was deer porn. That stuff.
Yeah,
man. It was like epic, man. Like, you know, I mean, it was cool. I mean, you got to see all kinds of landscape.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. What you're saying though is, you know, dude, anybody can kill a deer on film. You know what I mean? It's harder to kill a big old mature, but you know, deer on or however whatever species you're talking about. But very few people can really are good storytellers and can document that. I mean, I think that's the ticket for those longer productions, you know.
Well, and I think you have to look in this space, you know, obviously the entertainment value of it has to be there, but you know, whether it's YouTube or whatever, I mean, most of these people are watching this stuff because they want to get better at their craft, right? They want to become more educated. They want to understand like what this person did. So, I mean, think of the last time you watched a really good video.
I would push back on that a little bit. I'll let you finish.
You don't think that they want to educate themselves?
Well, I'm just saying I don't know. I don't know if it is most people. I don't watch hunting stuff because I want to learn stuff.
Well, I'm just saying, but 90% of people watch YouTube for education purposes or how to do something.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I mean, that's what it is. It's a fact.
Factual. I think there's
fact.
Some big. I think I know where you're going with it, Jared. Right? It's that nostalgic feeling.
I want to be entertained. I want to immerse I want to experience it. Yeah.
And you're seeing it and you're imagining yourself being right there. And it's like create that environment that you're watching it on TV, but you're like almost there, you know, like,
dude. And that's where I think YouTube's going to start to kill you off in terms of your mindset around that. Because I think per what Lucas is saying about things going shorter, you're going to have more people saying, you know, hey, here's how to find buck beds, or here's how to read, you know, leeward ridges, or whatever it might be, versus like, let's just have the hunt and the story and everything around it.
You're right. Hence my confusion around, like, you know, there's guys, you No offense to any of these guys, but there's guys, that are, here's how you do it, guys. You got
Jeff Sturgis, who's a good friend of ours, sits in front of a whiteboard and people watch the shit out of it, including me.
Sturgis, Higgins, who else is in the here's how you do, even In Fault, who we talked to last week.
Fault, yeah.
I get it.
Right
there's good information. Winky's doing it, but I'm like, who watches this? I'm like, what do you like? Why? What are you watching?
Apparently, 100,000 people, because that's how many people.
There's a lot of people. There's a lot of people.
Dude, Lucas, to your comment though about like the nostalgia, no joke. Like, you guys can make fun of me for this. I used to, I went to college in downtown Pittsburgh. I used to, for whatever reason, what did it for me was like the chill step, the type of music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Just for whatever reason, I could just see that. I could see the slow-mo hunting sequences. I would put my headphones in and walk down East Carson Street and across the 10th Street, but just envision the slow-mo drop, and I would put that chill step on just, to put me in that mindset.
You're like the American Psycho meme right now. This is in my headphones while I'm walking.
We need to post somewhere, dude. There's a freaking video. We'll put it on. I filmed with my GoPros, first GoPro I ever got. It was like a 3-foot wide alley it wasn't even 20 yards. It was like 15 yards. It was like our house on East Carson Street. I made this slow-mo video of me shooting my bow into this target when I was whatever, I'd have been in college, 18, 19 years old.
Well, we've talked about this. We were going to do some of these throwback videos at some point. Because
that's on my old Facebook.
I think my first one was sometime around 2099. That was the first film that I produced for hunting, and I'm sure I was just shooting does in the face or something.
Yeah, blackface.
Yeah, probably. yes. But yeah, I mean, that's probably back. But I mean, it was kind of cool. And Lucas, I assume this is kind of why you do it. I used to film those hunts. Yeah, at some point, when YouTube became relevant, it was like, oh, cool, put it out. But man, just to go back and watch some of those hunts and replay it in my head of how things went, or to kind of relive those hunts. I mean, that's why I did it for a long time, and nobody else ever saw it unless I showed it to them.
Yeah. I mean, I do that. I go back years in the old external hard drives, and look at stuff. I think the most fun I have with it is sharing it with anybody that comes and hangs out. I got groups of guys that come up paddle fishing every year, so we'll gather around. We'll show a bunch of the shit from the year before and keep everybody updated on that. And then at that same time, I'm there explaining the whole thing going down. So that it's that. And then I just got hooked to having that camera in the tree. The shot aspect of it is one of those things that, because I shot a deer not too long ago off camera, and it was driving me nuts that I couldn't see where that arrow hit. I knew it was a good hit because I seen it go. I was pretty sure, but that whole thought process goes through is but what if it was just a little bit left, a little bit right, whatever. And so that drove me crazy. And so one of the best things about it, just in season wise, is just knowing what happened. You know? And,
no doubt.
And because you've seen it a million times. Buddy says, hey, I hit a deer. Let's go track him tonight. Can you come help? You go out, you're trying to, get a feel for where they hit them. How wrong are they? Almost 80% of the time.
Yeah,
right.
I thought I hit good. You're 6-7 inches, a foot out, from where you thought you hit, and it's that's what I like that part about it, probably the most, I guess, as far as just from a hunting standpoint, is just knowing what happened, and then you get to go back and review and see what you could have done better, what the deer did, why he did that, and just reviewing everything is part of the cool stuff there.
I think that's where I've seen kind of the been able to go back and replay the individual variation on some of these deer that even these deer that are all 5+ years old. You've got certain deer that, I've snort wheezed certain deer in. There's other ones that, I could just tell by the behavior of that deer if I snort wheezed at it, or if I, grunted hard at it, that it was not going to respond the way that I had hoped. And it's cool to go back and see those kind of, videos prior to doing those, whatever led to killing them, and saying, I probably recognized that deer was just pushing these other deer around, or this guy was kind of a loner and just skirting and wasn't sure what was happening. And You know, in a lot of cases, the deer that I didn't kill, what trying to analyze something that went wrong, in that scenario.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think you hit it right on the money there with the body language thing. I mean, I think that's a skill in itself, like just knowing what deer are feeling or what they're, I guess, are they alert? Are they not? Are they creeping? Are they loose? Are they relaxed? Are they running hard, or what are they doing? Right? Like,
are they 120 or are they 180?
Yeah. Try not to look right there. You try not to look right there. You take one peek, it's a shooter, and then you just forget about that. Just forget about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting, man. I think, we've gone over things, and I've had buddies point out like, oh, did you see what he did there? And then I'm like, oh yeah, I didn't notice that. That is interesting. And so just learning, learning more about it, and
that's huge.
And, that's me. Like, so me hunting and filming and doing that whole thing that's me. So I think about my kids, my grandkids and whatnot, future grandkids and all that. I feel like if they're going to know me, that's where they're going to be able to find out about dad or grandpa or whatever. I'm going to have all this stuff chronicalized, and, and maybe they'll watch it. Maybe they won't. Maybe it'll disappear. I don't know. But
that's a cool way to look at it, for sure.
I found, I went back and watched some clips. There were a few, and I didn't know it at the time. After I'd shot a buck or whatever, I was watching, whether I was talking like an interview or whatever, and I've seen bucks skirt behind me. Like there was another buck coming, and I had no idea. And I like look and I'm like, is that like go back and I'm like, there he is, like just cruising, skirting the backgrounds or something. And so it is. It's just, you start to really kind of analyze those things, and I think from a behavior side especially, there, because a lot of times like you're in the moment, so maybe you're processing and trying to understand the behavior and make a reaction to it, but you're also so focused on getting to the chance of making that shot that as soon as it happens, you probably aren't going to be able to accurately, discuss what that deer was doing or what the behavior was doing. Whereas if you've got it recorded and you're sitting there watching that deer, you could see those kind of intricacies of, different things, ears laid back, hair bristled up, stiff legging, whatever. And I think that's kind of a cool piece of it. In the same breath, I've also, watched, in fact, it was one of these Kansas deer over here that I thought was a different deer. And I went back and watched like 2 days before, and I had that deer on camera. When I said, after I killed him, I was like, man, I've never seen this deer before. Like, but it was like right at daybreak, and I filmed this deer work over and smash a scrape. And when I went back, I could see his broken brow, and he was a mainframe 6x6. I was like, that's that deer.
They're deceiving, man. It's so hard for people to, and that's why I lump, the 120 versus 180 into your, people just don't know about deer. Like, even people who'd say, I'm a hunter. I practice all year long and stuff. It really comes down to exposure, to deer, spending time with them, seeing how they whether you're watching, that's where I think information can be gained from watching whatever it is, YouTube videos, or just watching deer, do deer stuff. That I think is huge. People way too often will call when they're not supposed to, not call when they should, draw when they shouldn't, or vice versa. And it's like, man, you gotta, first of all, be able to identify the animal, and then interpret, what they're doing, and have some understanding of what you think is going to happen here, and then be prepared to react to kill the thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's a big piece. Lucas, are you a blind caller at all? Do you call blindly, or are you only when deer in sight?
Rarely. No, I rarely. We used to, going back to when I first started bow hunting, that was probably, I don't know, 2002-ish, I'd say. Something like that, 2003, if I remember right. 2004. Yeah, somewhere right around there. But it was, deer were much more callable back then. And then for like even that first 10 years of bow hunting, they were much more callable up here. And, there is a stigma that it's the Dakotas, it's the whatever, and everything's callable. You can just rip at them and they just come running or whatever. And because of the hunting pressure thing, right? And the lack thereof, but I think what happened with us was we had the oil boom in 08, and about that time everything exploded up here as far as people. And then it brought, people from Pennsylvania, from everywhere, all walks of life came here, and a lot of them are outdoors dudes, right? And so the hunting pressure just went nuts. And so about that time, it took a few years, but it dwindled off enough that within the last probably 7 years, it's tanked really bad for calling deer. It's just not something that really happens very often.
Well,
anymore.
The two go hand in hand too, I think, because like as you're looking at a map, all those oil and gas roads, you can get to like any piece of public that you want because of that that road network.
So like this corner, like people for the years, I'm partly to blame, like people would see the white knuckle stuff or whatever, and they'd come up in this area and they'd try to hunt, and it would kick their ass, because it is not easy up here. Like this is just a different pocket, there's these big river bottoms. It draws everybody, all the people who live up around here within 100 miles, most of those guys are heading to the river bottoms if they can. You get, a few bigger cities that not big as in I guess the United States, but around here, the bigger towns, a lot of those guys end up down here. And so it's just a hub that is, everybody's attracted to it, and so every parking lot's trampled, there's pickups everywhere, and people driving around. The shed hunting is insane. I used to pick up 70 to 100 sheds a year, 10, 15 years ago. I'm lucky to pick up 5 or 10. It's just the moose moved in, and everybody got after these moose paddles.
Oh,
and so these moose paddles, they're everywhere. As far as moose are, and so people are driving the roads first light. Literally right as it's dark, they're driving all these roads, glassing, looking at the moose, seeing if they drop, and then obviously people are going out finding whitetail sheds at the same time. So it's this area is different. It's different, man. It's
So you guys have, Lucas, you guys have whitetails, muleys. Do you have elk?
Yep.
Elk,
moose.
Yep. Bear.
Yep. Antelope. No bear. There's like every year there's
no
like
Montana grizzlies coming over.
Like way up north, like a black bear. There was like one like way up north by the Canadian border.
Canadian
here, like last year. But mountain lions are getting more prominent.
Yeah.
And they have a hunting season for those.
And is there like badlands in that part of North Dakota, or is it?
Yep.
There is.
Yep, right in here. Yep. So if Donnie Vincent filmed that one video, the
divide, Rivers Divide.
There you go. Yep,
freaking beautiful country, dude. I remember.
Yeah, that's 30 minutes from my house, 40 minutes from my house. That place, that area.
What was that deer's name? It was something stupid like.
I can't
Steve.
remember.
Dale.
Yeah.
What was it? Steve.
Yeah. Steve, yeah.
Dale.
Well, dude, what's so funny about that is because you think about like that corner of North Dakota, and we'd say the same about Kansas and stuff, and like the places that were remote and didn't have the pressure, and in turn had really good deer populations and big deer. Not so much anymore, or at least more difficult to find.
Yeah, we're our deer numbers right here in this area locally for me are way down. Like they feel like they're way down because I'm so used to. We used to drive around, when I was high school, college, just out of college, and you'd see it wasn't out of the norm to see 100 and some deer in the fields left and right. Now you just don't see. You see 5 or 10 in daylight in a field. You're lucky. Like, wow, I'm the first guy to drive by here, all day, and so it's just it's a different animal now. And I don't mind it. Like I've had more fun battling the pressure and figuring out how to hunt around the pressure than I did probably before, when I wasn't, I guess, as skilled as a hunter, and I was just kind of just going out and, feeling like I was figuring things out. But really it was just deer numbers were up. There's lots more, 120 to 150 class deer. Yep. And, it was just a matter of time at that point. And I hunted all the time, but now I hunt way less, and I've still been able to kill 6.5, your age deer consistently, but it's all been kind of right in the mix of all these other dudes all the time,
It
And
seems like. Sorry, go ahead, Luke. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Seems like, from Jeremy and I's fairly limited experience with the Dakotas is, with muleys, it's not really, the pressures is not like the main thing. Like, because it seems like, all the deer, whitetail and mule, and I'm sure probably in your area, the elk too, they're all coming to like agricultural food sources, right?
Yep.
So you have big giant ag fields or whatever else is planted out there. And then like, seems like the muleys will trickle off in a couple different groups up into the hills. And some of them will make it far, some won't make it very far into the Badlands. The whitetails, it seems like, are primarily coming from like the timbered, river bottoms, and
Right.
like it's a much more concentrated movement.
Mhm.
And it almost seems like if they can make it to private, they will. Like
Oh,
they know where that line
They
is
know.
at. So how
know.
does that work? I can see, because we've hunted pressured alfalfa fields for muleys and had success. If we were to try to apply the same strategy with whitetails, I think we would struggle because of how confined that movement is, and there's guys hunting the private side, and it seems like that would be tougher.
I think it would be more about finding that right scenario, that right spot.
Yeah.
I think there's still, like I say, there's pressure where I'm at, but I think you go, there's all kinds of spots around North Dakota, Montana, South Dakota that you can find that maybe aren't like, they're not as sexy looking, right, for deer, but they're there. And then literally once you figure out where they're at, and literally those non-sexy areas, that's where you're gonna find a mega giant that's killable, because there may be nobody there, And so I think it would be more or less just, bouncing around, find that right scenario. And I think you're gonna find it.
What's your strategy up there, Lucas? I mean, are you hunting from stands? Are you on the ground spotting stock? I mean, what's your primary strategy for whitetails?
Picking up hay bale blinds and running with them.
Yeah. About 50-50.
Yeah.
I guess tree stand. I don't know how to ground blind. It just don't work. I guess for me, I've just never seen them work very often. You got to have them in a place for so long before they actually get used to them. And, most of the time your blind just gets jacked or stolen or whatever, messed with, but in that long time period that it would need. Right. So I don't mess with those. I preferably like to just sit on the ground, literally with nothing, nothing, no kind of blind or anything, and just nestle into some cottonwoods or some diamond willow or whatever that's there. And you almost feel a little naked, but I've found that deer don't see me as often when I'm kind of not trying to hide as much either. It's weird, but if you're tucked away in these little pockets and stuff, and it seems they pick you off. But I guess my main strategy would be nowadays is, I still use the river. I hunt off the Missouri River, and come in on the backside of everything in mornings, especially. You got your water, you got the timber, you got your ag fields. So you make that big circle, you come in behind, you get in there for bedding area hunts and whatnot. And then, but I've gotten to know this area so well that there's not a whole lot of prior scouting necessarily. I kind of like, over the years, I keep tabs on everything up here enough that I kind of get the general idea where these deer like to move from and this and that. It's about finding the one I want to shoot mainly,
right?
And use of trail cameras, which are they're fading off in, interest wise for me in the last few years. I like using them, but then I don't like using them. And then I kind of just get bored with them, or kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe I just kind of want to hunt and not know what's going to come.
Yep.
I'm kind of getting more towards that too. But, mostly stuff like that. Glass them up if you can, which is, almost impossible nowadays. I used to have a lot of fun velvet scouting.
Yeah.
When you could, you'd be out there and you'd get some good velvet film. And
why do you say it's almost impossible?
They're just the daylight movement where you'd actually be able to see them is so, it's not impossible. It's just the way I used to do it it'd be impossible to do it that way. So like now I would have to do something out of the ordinary where I have to go and find like a tucked away, like little weed patch or something out in the willows that's like a small growth, or that I'd be able to get up in a tree and glass from 800-900 yards, 1,000 yards, or get up high on a hill and glass down into stuff. And you just can't go driving down the road, and just see deer left and right. It's just not something that happens anymore. But I guess more than anything, it's just you got to either get out and do some walking and then get up high, or get out, do some walking, find the tracks. Tracks is probably the easiest way to find a big deer, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Go out there and find tracks, and tracks don't lie.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Stealth Cam.
Dude, where would we be without our cell cams?
I would definitely be divorced at this point.
Yeah, I hear that.
I mean, the fact is I spent more time checking cameras than I actually did hunting prior to cell cameras. Now, at least, my wife can enjoy me being in the comfort of my own home, buried in my phone, checking those pictures.
Yeah, 100%. And dude, when it comes to trail cameras and definitely cell cameras, reliability is, I think, the number one thing that we're looking for. Stealth Cam just has a long reputation of reliable cameras, and ultimately that is the most important thing to us. They have to work.
In terms of reliability, there's not a better camera on the market than Stealth Cam, whether you're talking about the Fusion X, the Reactor, or the DS4K Transmit. And most of them are under $200.
Stealthcam.com. Check them out.
Well, I think that's going to be one of the interesting things. We had a lot of people pegging on us this week with Kansas shutting down trail cameras on the department-owned land, so walk-in only and stuff. I don't know if it applies to the Army Corps land and stuff yet.
I'm kind of with you though, Lucas. I don't really care.
Well,
it's kind of like, all right.
Yeah, me. They could tell me to not use a camera or any trail cameras from here on out, and I wouldn't even argue. So that's just me. Like,
So my biggest thing is the main reason I feel kind of locked to them is because I usually hunt a specific deer. So I don't want to go in and just hunt any 4-year-old. Like, I want to hunt a deer.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe even in a North Dakota setting or even a Kansas where there's some more open ground, some more visibility. When you get into some of the states or you get in a river bottom and there's a bunch of timber, the ability to locate a buck, like, again, to your point, Lucas, you may find a giant track and be like, oh, that's a mature deer. It just depends. Is that the deer you want to kill or not?
It hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts non-residents, I think, way more than it hurts.
Oh, absolutely.
Resident in that regard, because we don't have the ability to go 16 hours to Kansas to just glass them up.
Yeah.
The residents do have that ability. Whether they.
Well, and I guess my fear is, because it's going to hurt the non-residents more, is you're going to see more non-residents leasing land in these states. You're going to then probably displace a lot more of, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, but your local hunters who aren't super serious, right? They basically were hunting by permission or whatever it might have been. Now they're going to get displaced to the public, right? Because all of the privates getting leased up. And we're already seeing that in Kansas in a lot of cases. This last year, we saw an enormous amount of Kansas residents hunting public because they've lost out on permission land because it's getting leased now by non-residents.
Yeah.
And so,
And you think maybe the trail camera thing could lead to more of that?
I think it's absolutely going to, because most of these guys, to Jared's point, like, I'm not going to drive out to try to scout public land.
Well, it's the 16 hours. They're like, I can't bait on public land. I can't run cameras. I can't do any of these things I want to do.
And part of it is the greed for success. So frequently that these guys are going to simply say, well, listen, the 5 of us should just go and lease this farmer's land for $10,000. Well, that displaced 7 locals who now have to go and hunt public.
The camera thing, I do think is kind of dumb. Like, I would much rather, I'd way prefer to see them get rid of something like baiting in a state like Kansas than I would trail cameras. Like, what was the reason behind it?
So they two big things. Number one was privacy, that there's people out there on public land that don't want to have their photo taken, that could end up on social media or whatever else. Okay. The other one was, and I think was bullshit.
I think it's public land though. I mean, it's not private.
Well, but I mean,
it's public land.
The fact that you're capturing,
I can walk up to anybody on the street and take their picture.
You might get punched in the face for it, but yeah.
You might get your trail camera stolen.
Yeah. And then the other one was, and I think was bullshit, was the pressure on wildlife. That they said that basically the cameras were putting more pressure in those areas.
That doesn't make sense.
I think it's going to be worse now. I mean, because now
that makes sense.
In
a state
essence,
like
I've got to go in there
Utah
and scout all of these areas and put pressure versus letting a camera marinate for 3 months.
That makes a lot more sense in like super water dependent states, like Colorado, Utah. Yeah. Not in Kansas. Maybe like Western Kansas, but
maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of indifferent on it. Like, I just don't have strong feelings one way or the other, I guess, on that.
I think it applies to the Western. Like, I know Utah's doing it from like whatever, July to December, and Montana, Arizona. Like, there's several states that have these. But in the West, like, I mean, you're hunting vast tracts, you're listening for bugle and elk, or you're following herds or whatever. Like, I mean, it's giant, big public that you're moving, you're glassing. It makes sense. And the other side of that is you don't see people leasing those pieces of ground as much because it's just so much vast BLM or public or whatever it is.
I thought Eldridge had one of the best examples of they're in Utah.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, dude, it's a problem. Like, you'll have like 5-10 trail cameras on one water hole.
Yep.
You know, and guys are going in, and you know, if one guy checks it once a month, you know, 10 different days, the guys are in there. It's like, when does the wildlife get to use it?
That's exactly. And so that makes a ton of sense. When you start to drift over into the whitetail range, you know, I think that it's not nearly as much of an issue as people are making it. And I think it is going to continue to put, I mean, we already have access issues and people have issues with leasing. It's going to be blown through the roof. I mean, just wait. Kansas in 2 years will be massively leased by non-residents, and residents will be displaced on the public.
Yeah.
You know, and
because those same guys that had cameras out there, like you said, that's pretty likely. I mean, because once you go to Kansas, I mean, anybody goes to Kansas, you don't hear them complaining about the hunt, right? They come back and they got, you know,
we complained this year.
We've
their
been
smiles
are
miles wide, right? And they're freaking can't
normally. Normally it is. This past year was rough, and
we've been going to Kansas like every year for the past. Jeremy's gone for 12. It's been getting worse.
And it's just more and more opportunity. Again, more people. This was the first year that I saw a noticeable amount of people hunting public. Like in the past, like you'd run into some guys, but it hasn't been nearly as bad.
Well, we threw in a towel on public, sure. Like we went in with intentions of like, hey, we've hunted public in the past, we've had good luck. I think we're about done with it.
Well, it's hard.
Dramatically getting tougher and harder. It's just more people and all that. Then
because what Jeremy is saying is, you know. Yep. Guys want the opportunities. The opportunities are on private, so they get leased up, bought up by non-residents, as well as some residents. And the people that, you know, had permission on those properties previously, you know, are getting displaced, but they still want to hunt. They got to, you know, even if it's just for meat, they're hunting public now. Yep. So a Kansas parking lot today in November looks like, you know, 5-10 Kansas truck, you know, one from Pennsylvania, one from Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and everybody's just tromping all the way through. They've got Onyx to be able to run as far deep as they want. They've got, you know, in your state, you've got oil well roads that lead to every single square inch of everything.
Well, and the other thing, and they're not wrong, because I'll admittedly say it is, that those cameras are being used to pattern other hunters, which it is. Like, I'm trying to find an area where there's nobody else walking through. If my camera's getting lit up by people walking through, I'm not going to go hunt there.
Sure.
So
I've done the same. I find myself using them more for people than I do anything anymore. Put them close to the parking lot and tucked away little spot on any of the walking trails going out this way or that way or whatever. And hey, not a whole lot of guys go in this direction. You know, I mean, that's probably where I'm going to go. You know, so
I think it will. It'll be interesting to see how it continues to play out. Kansas becomes the first domino in like the majority of whitetail range. And so who follows? Like, you know, Missouri's already been on that train, and a lot of people don't know that, but I did because I was running them and apparently it was illegal. But you can't have cameras on Missouri Department of Conservation land. So now you've got Kansas and Missouri both saying no cameras on these public lands. Who's next? Iowa?
It just doesn't seem like an enforceable thing either. It seems like a dumb law.
Yeah, I mean, I assume that if somebody's walking through the woods, a warden's walking through the woods or whatever, he'll just steal your camera.
But how do they punish you? Like, how are you held accountable?
I have no idea. They don't. I would assume.
Camera's gone? Okay. Buy another $100.
Steal the camera. Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't seem, I guess.
Do you know, is there a way for them to track you down if you have a cell camera in an area?
Well, that's what I don't know.
Can they look at where it was?
Like the IMEIs or something? Maybe. But now you got to get the trail camera manufacturers to to kind of let you in the database, basically.
Right. And then what do they prosecute you in the state that your trail camera's in? Or
Probably.
where the crime was
Yeah,
committed?
what are they going to do? Extradite me to Kansas?
Yeah. I've got warrants in Kansas.
Yeah.
Too many trail cameras.
They're going to send a bounty hunter out here for me.
Yeah.
We found 36 illegal trail cameras.
In North Dakota, that you're supposed to put your name and number on it.
Are
visibly.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, you know,
Like a trap.
and I guess what's so crazy about it is you see those things happening, right? But then at the other end of the thing, it's opportunity.
Bait and crossbows,
Yeah, baiting,
everything you want.
crossbows, straight wall cartridge, whatever you want to do. And it's like, wait a minute, like you're gonna really push all of that stuff, but you're gonna take away cameras? Like what?
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand. What's the purpose?
Some Karen probably bitched about it. Said, you know, got her picture taking a dump in the woods. Ended up on
Yeah.
Facebook.
That will happen.
Could have been your serial shitter.
That will happen.
Yeah. No, I don't know, but I'm surprised because they did try to pitch and say, okay, well, let's just do it during the season, but during the off season for scouting, you could have them. And ultimately, the commission unanimously voted no. We're shutting it down the whole time. So, and I guess, you know,
I reached out. I'm trying to get somebody from Kansas to come talk to us about it.
per the industry side of things, you know, it's not huge, but now, I mean, you start seeing this. If you're a trail camera manufacturer, I'd be a little bit worried about where these things are going. Sure, most people owning trail cameras are putting them on private land, but I mean, there's a large chunk of people that put them on private land, you know, and that's a large customer base that is slowly fading on you.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, but yeah, that's,
Kansas just did it on like certain public lands. Is that
yeah,
what they did?
walk-ins and anything they own, but I don't think it applies to the Army Corps lands because that's federal.
Yeah,
It's usually
they
separate.
usually run on something different. Yeah.
Yeah. So Missouri's the same way. I think on Army Corps lands you're fine, but on the Department of Conservation lands or WMAs you can't. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these other states start to play that out, if they see it's an issue or not. Like, I mean, could Ohio do it? Could Ohio say, yep, no more trail cameras on public land?
It only
Maybe.
takes one, and then, you know.
I
that's how
know.
it
It's
usually
opened up
starts.
the gate.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just I don't understand a reason for it. Like, why would they do that in Ohio? Doesn't make any sense. Privacy
I mean, that's the big claim that's going to be is privacy.
of what? Of who?
Of
Like, if you
anybody.
want privacy, stay on private land. That's what private
Well,
land is for.
it's probably I would assume it's a lot more of the non-consumptive users than it is the other hunters. Like, dude, we get our picture taken all the time on cameras. I would assume
It
it's
doesn't matter. It's public land regardless of
I
your
would assume
utility.
it's the hikers coming through. Yeah, but you know how these liberals are on that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess I marched to the drum a different beat there. Like, you know, like I'm not like
Yeah.
I go through I go through the woods. I mean, I just find a camera and whip my wiener out and take a piss.
Yeah,
Right,
there you
right.
go.
Windmilling. I'm like, see
Exactly.
if you, how fast your trigger speed is here.
Yeah, I'm marking my territory, bitches.
Yeah,
Let's go.
yeah, yeah.
Mine.
Just put
This
a
is my
put a
scrape.
big
This was not a deer scrape. This was mine.
Uh-huh.
big cold pressed ham right against the lens.
I
Yeah.
mean, come on. You guys haven't came up into a trail camera on a scrape and you haven't worked the scrape in front of
for
it.
sure.
Oh, 100%.
Oh man. That's
I'll
like
show
the
you.
best
I'll
thing
show
to
you
do.
some pictures after, Lucas.
Yeah.
We got some good ones.
Yeah, plenty of time on that one.
I've had plenty of farmers working my scrapes here.
Yeah. I guess I just don't understand what they're going to get accomplished. Number two is like they don't have enough enforcement to begin with. So to your point, they're
It's
not going to enforce
enforceable.
it.
It's a dumb premise. Like,
Well, in at least in Missouri's case, and I'll give them credit, although it's stupid, the fact is that it wasn't in the rule book, which means if it's not in the rule book, it's considered illegal. Versus Kansas has actually passed a law making it illegal.
Right.
Which, you know, apples and oranges, but they're kind of in the same end result there.
the if it's not in the rule book approach is pretty egotistical when you think about it. Like,
yeah.
If you're gonna say that, you're gonna say we've thought of everything else.
Yeah.
I break every rule that isn't in the book, guys. Every fucking
But if you wrote the rules back in 1980, then there were no trail cameras. So like, of course, it's not going to be in the damn rule book.
Right.
Yeah. So it you know, but I think that those are the things that, again, how can you do that when you're just opportunity on the other side? You're like just jamming it. Like I don't care what you do. You just can't use a trail camera.
In fairness, you do have to treat each state individually. You know. That's just a Kansas decision. Well, who knows? They might be looking at other states and saying, well, it works for them or not.
Yeah, Missouri.
You'd hope so.
Being one. Their neighbor. Yeah. So I'm not sure. I don't know what they'll get out of it. And my only worry, again, is to your point, Lucas, like, I don't care. I mean, if we can't use a camera, we can't use a camera. But if that makes a rush on leasing land, it's going to change the dynamic of the deer herd on that landscape.
So here's a question. I'm sorry. I'll be butting in here. What if I hang my trail camera on private land?
Point it into
We
public.
also should probably talk about the Utah shed season thing here that's people are fired up about. In Kansas, if I hang my camera on private land pointing into public land,
you're good.
Is that legal? What if it's not my private land? What's
You're
worse?
still good.
What's worse? Trespassing?
Oh, well, I thought you meant you had permission to put it on there.
Well, initially I did, but then I threw a wrench in it.
Yeah.
Theoretically,
I would say you're good because it's on private land. Whether you have permission or not, that's up to the landowner to take it down.
That'll be one of those cases that they're just gonna get mad at you.
It's like
they're gonna freak out, dude.
It's like the checkered board corners now. You're like, well, did I trespass or did I not trespass? Huh? That's the way it goes.
What is going on with the Utah thing? They recently said you're not allowed to pick up any sheds even if you find them.
I don't know. I haven't seen that.
Have you seen that, Cayko?
I'm not sure. I thought there was who was it? I thought somebody just passed that.
Utah
like they put
season.
a shed season in or something. I know some places do like this period to this period you can pick up sheds, but that's it.
Yeah, what I've been
or you got to wait till a certain time, I think, or something.
What I've been seeing on it is, and that it may be tied in with like a specific time frame, but they're basically saying shed hunting it's causing like a harassment of wildlife basically, and so even if you're out recreating, like hiking, you're not allowed to pick up sheds. I believe it's Utah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's
so I'm gonna walk by them.
Yeah,
February 7th to April 30th.
I would wonder if like I could see some arguments where it's like up to this point, like whatever, mid-January or whatever it is. Obviously, it's all different in every state, but up to a certain point, maybe we don't let people go running around chasing deer around in 2 feet of snow and they're running like hell, whatever, struggling as it is.
Yeah,
I get that part, I get that part of it, but I don't know.
I think where the confusion was people probably were finding sheds like out of shed season, and they're like, can I pick it up? Like, I'm already here. I just wandered on it. And they're saying, no, you're not allowed.
I mean, think of your non-consumptive user. They have no freaking idea. Of course they're picking it up and taking it home. They don't even know when hunting season is.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and so
I wouldn't think anything of it.
The problem, though, is shed hunters were like using that excuse. Like, I'm just out here recreating, and I happen to find a shed. Like,
yeah. Well, again, to your point, I don't care how you're using it. If it's illegal, it's illegal. It's just how are these non-consumptive people learning about it? Like us as hunters and shed hunters are aware of that, but I'm sure the next hiker out there doesn't know, and they're going to pick it up.
Well, the rules, they're going
to be, look at all these sheds that nobody's picking up.
Yeah. Yeah. We did find a ton of sheds out there too.
How would you have to dress, right? How would you have to dress to pass that off? It's like,
probably straight Patagonia.
Yeah.
Sleeping bag, maybe dreads. I don't know. Jared could put his hair in dreads.
No, you'd have to have a little hammock.
Oh yeah.
Full of hammocks in the pouch.
Some type of like reflective jacket or some sort.
Yeah. We've got the Nalgene's covered, so that's good.
The Nalgene's, yeah. Yeah.
We've got the Nalgene's covered, so we're good there.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think that's probably, because when we were in the Dakotas, like we were putting stocks on, and I'm like, nope, there's a shed. I'd like break off the stock just to go pick up the shed.
Oh, yeah, of course.
The other one was arrowheads. And I found out after the fact because I found an arrowhead in South Dakota, and somebody was like, you got to be careful. You can't pick them up in some areas.
Huh.
I was like, ooh, too late.
I'm just a tourist. I don't know.
I'm just out here recreating.
I just recreate. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt Archery.
Dude, where would we be without our Hoyt bows?
Probably shooting crossbows.
or a Matthews, yeah.
One and the same.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we love being Hoyt guys because you stand out. When you're in this room full of other people that shoot these other types of bows, I feel like the Hoyt guys just stick out.
Dude, it's just a legit bow. I mean, especially that carbon riser, man. I mean, I know that they've got several other aluminum lines as well. But for me, I'm shooting that RX-5 in the carbon model. They've since come out with the RX-7. And I can't tell you how much I love being a Hoyt guy amongst a sea full of Matthews guys. So we're out there, I think, proving them wrong, shooting 80 pounds and, killing stuff.
Hey, man, if you want to get serious, get Hoyt. Jared just wanted to know where we should go kill muleys this year. We got to get drawn first, dude. We've been drawn, 3 years in a row? I don't think it's going to happen a fourth.
Yeah, that's pretty good. 3 years in a row.
Yeah, 3 years in a row we've drawn. And so we hunted the first 2 years, so that have been 20 and 21. And then 21 was the drought, and it kind of carried into 22. And so we forfeited our tags last year. We didn't even go. We just got a refund.
Yeah.
But now it seems like you guys have actually got some moisture through there, so we're probably putting back in and hopefully getting drawn for 23.
Yeah, we should have a pretty wet spring here.
Yeah, it was crazy, man, because the first year that we were out there, it was just like lights out, the craziest thing we've ever seen, muleys all over the place in alfalfa and wheat fields. We made a better plan for the next year, and like had it been apples to apples, I mean, we would have been in some giant bucks every day, and instead we couldn't buy a doe if our life depended on it.
Well, we did find them.
Yeah, it took a while,
but they just were
in the grasslands,
like unhuntable. Yeah, I mean, they were bedded behind 6 foot tall sage, and like there's just no way.
Yeah. How do you approach that, right? I mean,
that was the hard part. Is like, you just couldn't.
We were seeing them every day. I mean, every day we found where they had moved
miles
to,
on, and
we're like, we knew going in there. It's the first light. It's like, there they are. There's big shooter right there, and it's just like, how could you get in there? You can't.
What drew you guys to that area?
I connected with
Mule Deer Foundation.
The guy's name was Marshall Johnson from the Mule Deer Foundation, and he. Well, initially the Dakotas were pitched to us by Ben. What's Ben's last name?
Fleischwacker.
Ben Schreischwacker from Shields.
Mm-hmm.
Just a buddy of ours at ATA.
He lives up in Fargo.
Yeah, he's like, dude.
Oh, okay.
He's like, you guys gotta come out here. He's like, they're freaking giant muleys over every corner. I'm like, okay. Like, yeah, that sounds great. So we got drawn. We both did. Jeremy and I thought it was going to be like a 4-year thing. We're like, oh, dude, it's, you don't just get drawn to go hunt North Dakota. And sure enough, we both got drawn that first year. We didn't put in as a group. Like we just, luck was on our side there, I guess. And so I got in touch with Marshall Johnson from the Mule Deer Foundation, and he kind of pointed me in the direction of where we ended up down there. And went out, had some success. We shot some decent mule deer our first year, but like on day 1 and 2. So we were like, it was.
Oh yeah.
The best hunt I've ever been on.
Yeah, it was awesome.
It was awesome. And so that's what brought us to that area. And then, like Jeremy said, the following year was
drought.
Not the same.
Well, we left on a day, like on Labor Day. We left on Labor Day, and it was pouring down rain, and that was like the last rain that area got until we came back.
And so I think at this point, like, we definitely want to come back. I think North Dakota would be the state. Like, if we could just pick one and say, hey, we really want to go hunt mule deer, it would be in North Dakota. I love the Badlands style hunting. I think we would be open to moving a little north.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, have you guys ever looked at this stuff that's just further
we
north?
have.
We have rough country.
Yeah, we've got a good friend. His name's Jason Ballou. If you search like YouTube, do North Dakota mule deer hunt, he's killed some really nice deer up there. He's from Michigan or Wisconsin or something.
Wisconsin.
And so we connected with him. We've had him on the podcast a couple times. And I mean, every year the dude kills. Last year 2 years ago, he killed a nice whitetail.
Yep.
And so I don't know. Like we just had that one. It's such a big commitment for us. Like it's 25 hours out there.
We know. I mean. Not know, but we're familiar with our area now, which is nice because we kind of know the spots where, hey, they're either here or they're there. They're
and
here
it's not
or they're there.
Perfect, because there is pressure there.
Sure.
It's just kind of the not knowing. It's like, is there greener pastures a little further north? Like, is this the best that we could be in? Like, I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, I could understand that. I mean, like I said, I'm more of a whitetail guy, but I know enough about, my buddies and other guys that come up and hunt and all that stuff that it just seems like it don't matter if you're in that rolling prairie or, or this like sage flats and, the Badlands area. It just seems like you put your time in and you're going to find what you're looking for. It seems like anywhere you go.
I mean, we found them. We haven't gone a trip without finding them. It's just 2 years ago, the stock was a lot tougher than 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that was because of the drought, and these deer were coming off bluffs into the river bottoms. And then last year, the river bottoms were as burned as everywhere else, and cattle had been expanded into the badlands for grazing, and so it pushed them all into the grasslands. Which we found them. It's just you're covering a mile of open territory to get to them, and that's not easy.
Like best case scenario, you go to the spot and it's everything you hoped, and you find a bachelor group on the first evening when you're driving around. In our situation. We staring at your mic. In our situation, we got out there. It took us a day or two to like realize what had changed, and we're like, okay, like we need to go somewhere else. Now we're midway through the hunt before we figure out where these deer are, and then we spend the rest of the time trying to kill, unapproachable.
Yeah, we were learning the area
so.
As much as we were hunting the deer.
Yeah, so we definitely want to stick to huntable ground. If we can, the Badlands is, we really do enjoy that style.
The place is awesome.
So yeah, I mean, that's kind of our tentative plan. Is like first we got to get drawn, and if we get drawn, honestly, I'll probably call you, and I'll call Jason as well. I might call Marshall back and just kind of do some more research for the year coming up. Say, hey, what have we seen? What areas have had?
Yeah.
And, we'll just make our best educated guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Nothing else. Find out what the hell the weather's been like, how much water we're getting. And
for sure,
we're going to have a wild spring here. I know that it's still winter. It's still dead of winter here. And it's any day now. We're going to start hitting that 40, 50 degree swings, and it's going to stay that way. And then we're going to start melting off, and this river's going to just take off. And
so if you guys
might have some massive flooding with some ice jams and stuff this year by the looks of it.
Wow. So you guys have had a lot of snow then?
Yeah. We're still getting some more. And I know out west in Montana, where a lot of our water comes from here on the Yellowstone, and they're packed up too over there in the mountains. And so we're gonna I don't know, man. It's weird how cold it stayed this late and consistently. So when it happens, the ice is not quite really even starting to thaw and melt here on the river. So dude, that ice stays strong, it doesn't weaken, and then you get a really quick thaw, out west and here, and then everything starts to take off, starts breaking the ice up, and now you don't have soft ice, you got hard ice, and it starts to make problems with jamming up and everything. So
dude, didn't you guys have a really bad bout of EHD a couple of years ago on the whitetails? Yeah,
and then most recently it was that CWD when it was so dry, year before last.
That was CWD.
Yep. Yeah, because I think I don't have it mixed up. I think it was EHD and then CWD.
EHD would correlate with the drought more than likely. So I think that's what it was. It was in 2021 or 20.
Yeah. You're right. Yep.
You guys had a big EHD on the white.
It was when we were out there. So 2021. Yeah, and that was a big kill off. And then but yeah, well, I think the CWD stuff came from Canada, whenever that was, several years ago, 5 or 7 years ago, through that area.
Yeah, that's right. That came first, then it was the HD.
Yep. So, but I don't know. I mean, again, we still saw, mature muleys and stuff. I just don't know. And again, it was hard to observe some of those bottoms where those whitetails would have been that we would have known.
If we bounce back really quickly to, you said you're not going to just drive the roads and see these giant whitetails. It was funny because we did. When we were just driving around, we're like, dude, that's a giant whitetail out there. We saw at least one booner, and we saw several, 5 or 6 year old, like 100 and high 50s, low 60s type dear.
Yep.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me down there at all. Doesn't surprise me down there at all, man. Down that area.
There was 3 years ago. The first year we were there when we were killed, when we were looking, we were scanning an alfalfa field where Jared ended up killing one of his bucks out of that group. But the closer alfalfa field to us around the river bottom was all whitetails, right? Mm-hmm. And I mean, I bet we saw at least 3 or 4 that were over 150, come out. And it was just like, you're watching these bucks come out and you're like, where the hell are they coming from? Because, I mean, there's not a lot of woods. Like, they're just bedded around the river, and then they just pop out in the alfalfa field and they go right back.
Yeah. My point was where I'm generally scouting. Like I said, there's like these little pockets that are just heavily hit more than others,
Yeah.
right? So like there's more areas like what you're talking about around North Dakota than there are like what I'm hunting.
Yeah.
You know, it's just little different.
Not that
you
we
know?
could hunt that. It was private, locked down. You know, you weren't
tried.
putting a toe over.
I called.
Yeah, we tried. But
I was gonna say, you guys didn't try to get in on that.
The most
yeah,
common,
we did.
it seems like the most common thing that you'll hear, like in North Dakota, any of these big landowners is, oh well, you know, my nephew actually has a small outfitting business, and we're like, yeah, okay,
yeah,
That's a lot of it, man. That's a lot of it.
I mean,
Yep.
that was it. I mean, we around the plots that we were hunting, there were private that had all the big muleys on it and good whitetails, and it was under the outfitter's watch. You know, and I get it, but I mean, and you know, frankly, that guy was a dick. Like he would drive up and down the fence lines of the like we would hike 2 miles in to Glass, and he'd just drive his truck right up next to us. You're like, what the hell, dude?
Oh, man. I've heard too many stories like that.
Yeah.
Too many. And I've dealt with it before, but yeah, that's why I stay on like the stuff that's just like packed in here. There's not a whole lot of that even opportunity where I hunt, you know, for somebody to do something like that. But, yeah, I can see that. People come from all over, and you hear stories, you know, the landowners adjacent or harassing them, whatever, and that's too bad too. That's.
I mean, we went into a few of these coulees and stuff, but I think that we I wouldn't say we avoided. We just didn't really go. There were some areas that, I mean, you could have hiked some miles deep in there and really made some ground up, but. You know, frankly, we were just seeing so many deer not that far from our vehicles.
Well, the first stock we did was like this is how it happened, dude. This like your state is just so crazy. Like we just had such a good time. And one of my favorite things about it is that like you could see everything. Like out here in the Northeast, it's like there's trees everywhere. You can't see nothing. That's why you know you all have to use trail cameras and stuff to you know, learn any kind of a pattern or anything. Out there, you just get you a good pair of binos and find a high spot, and you'll figure them out. So anyways, we drove all the way out there, and we got there with enough time to drive around the first night, and we drove around on the eastern side of the river where it's mainly ag. And we're like, here's pronghorn, here's some whitetails out in the, you know, whatever, soybean fields and sunflower fields and stuff. And we're like, man, we're just not seeing the muleys that we thought we would see. So we used most of our night doing that. So the first morning, we did the same thing. We went out that side of the road. We're like, maybe we'll see him in the morning. Not seeing anything. And this guy pulls us over and
he was at camp with us.
He was
in the same camp area.
He like we just happened to stop in the same place. There's only 2 roads out of the town there, right? And so we pull over. We just start talking to this guy, and he's like, oh yeah, you know, he's this and that, and he's like, you guys know you can't start until noon, right? Like season doesn't start until noon. And we're like, okay, right on, buddy. Yeah, for sure. Like just sounded like somebody would throw
just
you off with.
jerking off the non-residents.
Okay, buddy.
All
right.
Picking on you guys.
So we're like, we better Google that. And then, so sure enough, we find out that is the case. We're like, okay, good to know. So,
good to know, because I was ready to kill one.
yeah, I was at full draw. And,
yeah, no shit. Strange fucking rule though, right?
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah.
I literally, we like looked at each other and like, what a jack off, you know, doing this stuff.
Yeah.
You know? So then we like pull it up. I'm like, holy shit, he was right.
Yeah.
Hey, what a nice guy now.
Yeah, we love him.
So we were grateful for him. We ended up making friends with him later on. And so did a little loop that morning. We just weren't seeing them, dude. We're like, man, they're not here. So we changed. We went up the other road.
Yeah.
You know, like I said, there was only 2 roads into the Badlands stuff where I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, I don't know that this is as good of habitat, you know, but, you know, boy, was I wrong. You know, we drive down this road and like freaking right there, 100 yards off the road, I'm like, there's like a giant framed, you know, probably 5-6-year-old, you know, not a giant high scoring deer, but, you know, not real deep forks or anything. He was like a 3x4 or something.
Yeah.
For sure shooter though. So
silhouette.
Antler silhouetted, like just right there by the road. I'm like, how many trucks have just driven past here and not seen him? There was
2 of them together.
That was
like
the
2 5-year-olds.
First stock that we did. Jeremy was up first. Literally, I was on the other side of the road. Was a better vantage point that I had. What was I doing? I was glassing for you.
You were glassing for me,
trying to get.
I was coming up the ditch because they had moved. Like we thought we were gonna like poke right up, and I was like, I'm gonna kill this deer like in the first 2 minutes right here.
Yeah.
And like I come up over this ridge, and they're like gone. I was like, what the fuck, because there's nowhere for them to go.
And this is the mistake that first time mule deer hunters make in hindsight, I think.
Yeah, well, it was because it was a little coulee that came up.
There's nothing there, dude. Nothing. It's just a little coulee. We're like,
and I could see the brush, and I'm like, this deer, like I'm just waiting to see like antlers. This deer's gonna be there, and I'm looking, and I'm like right there, and I'm like, what the hell? Like this is crazy. There's nothing here. And I look to my right like 50 yards, and there's a single sage bush with both of those damn bucks like up underneath it, and they're looking right at me, and I'm like, son of a bitch.
They have the worst like like bound away too. Like,
oh yeah.
Like...
I mean, Jared ended up stalking them the next evening.
Yep.
I mean,
we saw him coming back to the ag field from the trucks. We were driving. I was like, here, dude, he's coming down that thing. So I got out of the truck and ran up into the public there and like got ready for him. And I almost got a shot.
I mean, and I mean, that was the thing is like, obviously they spooked, and like we still put another stock on him. We almost put another one on him. We saw him again. It was just like,
so much fun.
You ran him around, but yeah, I mean, that was the mule deer 101, like kicking the crotch. Is like you did everything like you thought, and you look, and there's one single bush at these two, 150, 160 inch muleys like underneath, like looking at you, like what the hell is this guy doing?
Yeah.
So
yeah, they got you.
Yeah, they got
They watched it coming all the way over.
Oh yeah. They're like, hey, we're gonna sit here, and we're gonna draw these guys right off the road, and then we're gonna move back here.
What's funny about them damn things? What's funny about that? They're so frustrating. Like I'm not gonna say I'm not a muley guy because I've hunted them. I've hunted them around, and I got enough experience hunting them with my buddies and stuff. It's just like the frustrating thing about them things, because they can almost seem dumb.
Oh yeah.
They can almost seem dumb.
Yeah.
And then right when you feel like you're like getting it figured out or you got this deer, they're just, I don't know.
Yeah.
They like vanish.
Oh, dude. The vanishing act was done. That one, the one that you chased up over the mountain. I watched this deer. Jared bumped him at like 2 yards, right? I'm on the vantage point because I'm tagged out.
Well, here, tell them the whole thing.
So we basically...
From the beginning, from the morning.
Well, yeah, so we watched these deer. Yeah, we glassed these deer in the alfalfa. This is above where we saw the whitetails. Watch these deer go across the river, up into the big coulee, and then disappear. And that's public. So we're like, all right, well, that's a 3-mile hike from where we can park.
On the other side.
Yep, on the other side. So we go get food and water. We load up as much as we can. Yep, hike down in there. We end up, we find a bunch of sheds. So we're like, oh, nobody's been down here. And then we spot one that's a good sized buck that you make a stock on. He's just
nice buck. Well, dude, I don't know how we saw it either.
Yeah,
like we came in off the way that whole area lays is like this. There's this giant alfalfa field right up against the Little Missouri River. And we were on the western side of it. We glassed all these bucks in the morning, filter off this group that we were going to go after, cross the river into this section of public. So like Jeremy said, we looped all the way around and drove in on the plateau that sets above, before you get to the Badlands, before you get to the river. And so we start coming in and stuff, and it just looks bucky. Like the whole thing, there's just, cut banks all the way through it. And we're like, okay, dude. Like, and we don't know. This is day 2. We're like, snakes and like,
we had no idea.
Still acclimating to the terrain and stuff. And so we get like, I don't know, maybe a third of the way to the river, which is where we figure those bucks we watched had probably bedded. But the whole time we're walking through, buck country. And I happened to like look back over my shoulder and just catch like this rack gleaming in the sun. Like, I don't know how far you think that was away, 300 yards.
Yep.
And we kind of hit the dust, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure I see a big buck bedded over there. And we kind of work up to this little, rock formation, and I'm like, yeah, dude, for sure. There's a buck bedded back. We kind of walked out and around him there. And, and
he hadn't seen you guys yet, you don't think either?
Apparently not.
No, he had not seen us because we kind of came around a big piece, like a big rock. Yeah. And so when we came up, we were actually diving down. We had already walked past him. Yeah. But it wasn't in real line of sight. In fact, when Jared, like he said, he looked back over his shoulder and caught him because he was behind a bank.
I don't know how we saw it. It was the weirdest thing, but we saw him. So we backed up from that little rock formation, and like, okay, dude, there's a high point up here. So Jeremy and I both went up there, found him again, made a plan. I backed all the way out and back around to where we'd come from. And ultimately, I got within bow range of him. Jeremy could see me. I mean, he's at the Pride Rock in the middle of this whole drain. Like he had the best spot ever. Man. And I get my boots off and everything, and I'm making the final approach. I don't think I bumped him as much, or maybe I did, but there was a smaller buck that like trotted out of this valley.
And I watched him stand up and kind of booger out a little bit.
And Jeremy's like, "Well, dude, they work together. Like you got to be right there." I'm like, dude, I don't know.
Because the first buck already had come by me, but the bigger one had not. And I'm like, he went into that ditch. Yep. He did not.
Jeremy would have been able to see him. And so he's like, he's in the ditch.
I'm like, dude, he's not here.
I'm looking in the ditch like he's not here. And literally, I don't know, at the last minute, I'm like, the very last little crevice at the very bottom of this like cut bank, sure enough, like there he is. I peek my head over and he's like looking at me. And I dump back real quick. I come to full draw. I stand up and he's bound. I tried to stop him and it just didn't happen. It's fine. He was like looking right up at me, and it was just so crazy. He was 5-10 yards from me at that point. So he runs off and he goes like right down. I'm looking at Jeremy up here on this.
Comes right underneath me, basically.
Comes right underneath of him and goes up on this rock, like mule deer's halfway up this rock face. And Jeremy's like, "Hey, I watched him. He went about halfway up this thing and bedded on this ledge.
There's a ledge with shade that he just parks his ass right underneath." And I'm like, there, and it's easy for me to be like, "Hey, Jared, you just need to go up over that hill and stuff," because I'm like sitting here just watching. I mean, it's a hike and it's a hill, and I'm like,
It was no problem. I'd been training for this thing. We freaking got after it.
I'm watching him. I'm like, he's under there. So we're kind of talking back and forth, and it's probably, I don't know, it probably took you 35-40 minutes to do that.
Yeah, probably.
But as he's doing that, of course, the sun's coming up, and so that shade is kind of eating away at that ledge, right? And so, like, you can every once in a while, I can kind of make him out, but not as good as before because he's kind of sliding himself back in because he's trying to get back into the shade to the point where Jared's, like, making the stalk, and I'm like, dude, he's like, that's the ditch. Like, I'm waiting for it. It's going to be, like, the most amazing stalk I've ever seen.
It was so perfect.
And he gets up to, he's like, he's not there. And there's, like, a backdoor entrance, basically, to that coulee cut that he must have backdoored straight up over the top, and I never saw him. But I mean, from the way I'm looking at it, it's literally a shelf. Like, there's nowhere from to go. Once you get in it, you realize there's 20 feet or 30 feet and then a backdoor cut. But you just
I thought I thought he was gonna get it. I killed mine that evening. We kept pushing down further to the Little Missouri River, and I ended up killing one down there, but at what, like 5-10 yards.
Yeah, and then we almost had to drink our pee to get out of there. We were about to be dehydrated to death.
Yeah, we were like 3 miles down in there, and
you drink my pee, I drink yours. Is that how it works?
Yeah, I'll hydrate you.
Yeah, that might actually work better.
I don't know.
One might be lighter colored than the other, and you'll be like,
I mean, it was awesome. He shot that buck, which was a great stock. It's like just sunset, overlooking the Little Missouri with alfalfa fields in the backyards. We're in the Badlands. We've got this buck.
Shot him 100 yards from that river.
Yeah,
so we went all the way to it.
I mean, this is it. Like, this is what you do. Then it's like you're packing them out, and we're all kind of jacked up, and then you're like halfway through the pack out, and you're like, holy fuck, like, we're thirsty. We're out of food. We're out of water. It's getting dark. We still got 1.5 miles plus with this whole damn deer on our back.
It was a hike.
But it was fun too.
That's September, I'm guessing.
That was first. Yeah, first part of September. So 3rd, 4th, 5th, or something like that. 2nd, 3rd, 4th.
Yeah. Jeremy's buck was still in velvet. Mine had shedded out like that day. The birds were still picking them off.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that time of the year too is, man, it can be rough. It can be 90 degrees.
It was. The day I shot mine, it was like 90.
It hooked us though, man. I mean, I'm like so excited to go back. We're just hoping we get drawn or
it's just part of it. I mean, we hunted our tail off the next year for 7 days, and
I shot at a whitetail.
Yeah, and I shot at a muley in South Dakota.
Yeah, because your guys is that's a dual deer tag, right? It's a either or.
Yep, either or. Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. What's it like for a resident, Lucas, up there? So like, what's your tag situation?
I can buy over the counter bow.
Okay.
I can put in for a rifle tag and a muzzler tag. So I could have three potentially whitetail tags or muley whitetail, whichever, right? You can go.
Are they either or for you? Or
what's that?
Are they either or for you?
No.
Okay.
No, you got to put in for either one. Yeah.
But you can shoot a muley and you can
so
shoot
like a
whitetail.
muley, I can shoot with my archery equipment.
Right, because that's an any deer.
Archery.
Yeah.
Yeah, any deer for us. Yeah. But you guys like can come in and buy an out-of-state tag for whitetail, right?
Right.
We always go for the any deer so we can hunt muleys.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the one you got to draw.
Yeah. But your gun seasons are draw even for a resident, right?
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's actually it's super rough for the unit I put in for because it's so sought after. But,
that's crazy.
That's the one I live in, and so it's I don't know, probably anywhere from 6. A lot of times, I'd say 5 to 10 years for a resident.
And I would assume, I mean, take the western states out of the equation, but let's say from the whitetail states in east, I mean, that's one of the only ones that, right, makes residents draw to hunt. I mean, I don't know many states or any states.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know if there's any others.
Yeah, I mean, from a elk but from a whitetail side, I mean, unless you're doing like a special draw like Bluegrass Army Depot in Kentucky or something like that.
Yeah, but the general tag.
Tag is over the counter for almost every resident. I don't care. Obviously, Iowa, Kansas, whatever, Oklahoma. Yep. So, I mean, I think it's one of the only states that, even from a resident side, you're essentially not guaranteed. Yeah. If you're a gun hunter in North Dakota, you may not be guaranteed to hunt every year.
Yeah, unless you got some land and you can get that gratis tag, and that's the land.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So that's a lot of it. A lot of guys got that, right? So there's large chunks of some private, around here as well.
How about your bow any deer? Is that a given or is that an application?
No, you can just order it. Yeah. It's a given. Yeah.
So I mean, that's your. And can you use a crossbow in North Dakota?
Yeah. But you gotta have like a permit.
For like injury or something.
So like any regular healthy dude ain't gonna go shooting. You gotta have.
You gotta show like a GPA less than like 2.0.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, you're qualified.
You're qualified.
Yeah. If you have a GED, you can't shoot it.
Right.
Yeah. Crazy, man. All right, Lucas. Well, we appreciate you coming on, dude. That was. Like I said, never know where we're going to go on these conversations, but always go somewhere fun.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Not enough time, as always, dude. We'll have to have you on again here soon.
Yeah, anytime, guys. Yeah, it's always a good time to talk deers with everybody,
That's it, man. Well, and it's you're in a unique area for the whitetail range, compared to a lot of us, which is what is so attractive to it. And, and again, it's funny when you start to kind of look at these different spaces and different areas and different styles of hunting. And, again, just anybody that's ate up with deer just wants to kind of hear that different variety out there. And so I think it's a really cool application because we don't find a lot of guys that, especially from the western part of North Dakota, that are ate up with whitetails. They're usually muley guys.
Yeah. Well, and we didn't really get too much into it. So I mean, there's a hell of a lot we could cover. There's the evolution of what this area has kind of turned into over the years, and what kind of things we went through with everything, and the deer are different. The pressure's way different. So it's cool. Lots of cool stories about it too. So.
Well, yeah, you're welcome back anytime, dude. We don't have to wait for so much time to pass or whatever. You're like, hey, dude, we're
gonna put in.
Let's keep going.
When do our tags go in? March. This is March.
I think we put it in April. And we know in like May. Okay. May or June.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, and for sure, dude, we'll be chatting back and forth on that. We'll let you know if we get drawn, and I may bounce some things off of you if you're cool with that.
For sure, man. Yep.
Sweet.
Perfect, dude. All right, buddy. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and can't wait to get you back on here and dive into it more.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
And great. Awesome. That's a good conversation. That North Dakota thing is, I'm sure people listening to this, if you haven't, I think if you literally
don't
go back
there, it sucks.
Well, you should go back to just because it's funny. Go back to episode 1.
No, don't go to North Dakota. Is what I say.
Oh no, yeah, don't do that. No, go back to episode 1 and listen to us talk about the epic North Dakota hunt. We also recapped somewhere in the past 60 episodes, the other one. But
Yeah.
the first podcast we ever did was talking about our North Dakota hunt.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, our equipment was shitty and yeah, but still, it was kind of fun.
Yeah, no, it's worth
To
checking
check
out. It's fun to see the early days. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, it's a cool state. And I told Cayko, like, the first time I talked to him, I was like, dude, all you guys are so easygoing. Like, all you North Dakotians.
North Dakotians.
Just so chill. They're like, hey, whatever happens, man. You know, it's cool. He's close enough to the Canadian border, you know.
You're practically a Canada, eh?
Yeah. No, it's a really cool part of the country. Really diverse wildlife habitats out there. Awesome. Just awesome country, awesome terrain out there.
It's one of those places that you don't have to do like your elk hunt, like a 14-mile backpack in, and yet you can still feel very remote.
Yeah.
Like you can go and get up on some of these points and these lookouts that we were doing, and like you feel like there's nobody for miles.
Yeah. It's big country. Truthfully, I think I hope that we get drawn for that more than we get drawn for Kansas
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, especially if they get the rain and the moisture that he's talking about, I mean, that'll flip it right back open to where we know kind of what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's an adventure for us, and I think that's why we like it. You know, I mean, it's 27 hours of driving one way.
Yeah. Well, if we go back to it, I think it'll just be you and I, right?
Yeah.
We'll just truck it out there and tag team it.
Same thing. Yep. That's it, man.
Yeah.
It'll be cool. So yeah, I mean, we've I think in the past we've been told that any deer tag is a 50-50 draw, but I think if you're hunting whitetails, like I think it's almost 100% draw to get that tag.
Yeah, it's over the counter.
Is it over the counter for non-resident? Oh, I thought it was still a draw, but it was like
muleys
100%.
you just have to apply for muleys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, I
I'm
mean,
pretty sure.
because a lot of guys, like I know Aaron and THP hunts a lot in eastern North Dakota. A lot of people hunt eastern North Dakota to hunt that velvet opener.
The breaking point guys
Breaking
are
point
big up
guys,
there.
yeah.
There's a few others too.
Mm-hmm.
Who else goes out to the Dakotas that we know?
Yeah.
Like Eldridge and
They did.
Alex go out there too.
Yep.
To the Dakotas.
Yep.
Yeah, it's cool.
Central
it's a cool
Dakotas.
spot.
Yeah, it is, and I mean it's a different type of hunting. That's why I was asking about his tree stand versus ground type approach on that. But yeah, cool territory, and you know, if you can sacrifice some early season time, it's a good hunt to put on the books. You can get over the counter tags in South Dakota for muleys, but you just have to hunt private land for the first month. You can't hunt.
Can't start until Oh yeah, you're
Yeah,
right.
you can't hunt public land until October 1.
Yeah.
But you can start hunting private land on September 1.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, cool place. Good to have Lucas on there talking about it, and yeah, good to go, man.
Found some sheds yesterday.
I know you did.
Yeah,
That's cool.
I made an Instagram story. Did you see that?
I did that. He said this is normally Jeremy's thing, but
I didn't even know which one was which. I was like, do I do a story or a reel or?
how do I post this thing?
So yeah, dude, I got a freaking fair share of briars. I'm cut up, dude. But I found a couple sheds. I found 2 at Glasgow,
Mm-hmm.
and I found 3 at. I actually found 1 at home.
Oh yeah,
Yep, and then I found 2 at McGivern.
that's pretty good.
The biggest one I found was at.
It's like a 4-point with a. Do you have a brow?
He's a nice framed 3 or 4 year old.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, man, it's I walked for like 20 minutes in Ohio. A lot of people saw the story I posted. I got that drill, picked that drill up. So I'll keep people posted on that. We did strike a chord with people. I thought this was interesting. Are you following TikTok now or no?
No.
So we did strike a chord with people on the is the Midwest, speaking of North Dakota, is the Midwest easier to kill big deer than there's a lot of agreeance in that.
Sure. Yeah, there's no question.
Yeah, factual. One might say.
Yeah, I mean would anybody contest that? I mean,
I just thought maybe there were a couple Midwesterners.
of course,
contesting it.
yeah.
It's not that easy in Iowa.
Yeah. Well, and we don't blame you either. It's like how could you know? And why would you leave?
Why would you leave?
Yeah.
You can kill $3 if you're a landowner in Iowa. Why would you go anywhere else?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, dude, deer just where they are, man. It's like I was telling you this morning. It's weird even just to go out to these places like where I've killed some nice deer in Ohio, and it's like, yep, they're here. Like, yep, there's
This is why. This is where they're at.
Yeah. Thickets with giant rubs and giant scrapes, and they just are where they are, and they are where people aren't.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can keep the pressure off and improve the habitat with timber work or adding food or adding water, but ultimately you gotta stay out.
At some point, we'll have a discussion, probably go down on the neighborhood route as well, because I think that the more that we've been on properties,
you say to go down on it.
The neighborhood route. Go down the neighborhood route.
Go down the neighborhood route?
Yes, that's what I mean. But I think it'll be interesting because I know a lot of people say that has a big effect, but
that's the biggest thing. That's the main thing. If your deer get killed, they don't get older. That's just math.
Well, simple math to carry the one. But does that mean like one landowner, or is it the whole neighborhood? You think one bad parcel?
The more liberal the hunting, stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the less neighbors it takes.
Yeah.
If one neighbor can go out in Ohio and dump a corn pile from 100 yards away, my scenario there, it only takes one.
Mm-hmm.
Or one property, because a lot of people can hunt one property.
I think that's the big one.
Yeah.
Yeah, is that people say, they only own 30 acres. Well, 7 guys hunt it.
Yeah.
Yeah, 7 buck tags.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest piece. And again, when you start talking about leasing or buying, like how the hell do you figure that out? Besides talking to the neighbors.
Well, people just don't. Their perception, they're like, well, I don't understand. Like, we have 4 guys hunting 100 acres. I'm like, you're screwed. It's not. It's not happening.
And you're screwed.
It's not happening.
Well, yeah, and I mean, again, it goes back to the fact, like, especially if you buy land, like, you want to enjoy it, but again, the least amount of time you spend on that land, the better it's likely going to be.
Yeah. Period.
Mm-hmm. And it's a tough thing for people because, again, you want to be on that property, whether you think you're approving it. There's a diminishing return.
It's self-control. It's discipline. Like if and you don't have to buy a property for hunting. Like not everybody does that.
Sure.
But if you're going to buy a property with the intentions of hunting it, and that's the primary thing.
Yep.
Can't do anything else there.
No.
Like pretty much.
Yeah, I agree.
You got to just let it set. I mean, these properties that I walked yesterday, the ones where I kill consistently in Ohio, we don't touch them.
Nobody's on them.
Nobody's on them.
Mm-hmm.
We don't ever go there. They're on neighboring properties and stuff.
They're not that big either, are they?
No, the one's like a 160, 30. Yeah, they're both like in that 130 range.
Yeah.
So I mean, don't get me wrong, not super small farms, but not giant farms either.
Yeah.
And compared to, my parents' farm, which by acreage is much larger, they hunt way better. And it has everything to do with pressure.
That's it. Pressure will kill.
Oh.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you joining us this week for Lucas Cayko, episode 119. Psycho Killer.
Nick, better fill up your gas tank before we get out of here.
Yep. Don't want to have to pick you up on the side of the road. And we'll see you next time.
Later.
Take me